Hello again. Okay, so we are here now, Facebook Live, for a Yin-ish yoga stretch for hips and hamstrings. Again, with the idea that we've all been sitting so much, maybe in our makeshift offices, sitting at our kitchen tables instead of our work desks. If we can release some of that pressure in the hips, the hamstrings, in those legs, a lot of times it can help release some of that low back tension. Now, true yin yoga, you hold a pose for anywhere between 2 and 5 minutes. I typically hold my poses for maybe 1 minute, a little bit longer when we're holding a real class. So keep that in mind. If something feels really good, feel free to keep doing it or to take it after this little introduction and do it again. Just know that you can overstretch muscles and you can overstretch tendons and ligaments, and I always say you don't gain anything by overstretching something. It's just like overdoing it. So use caution. Take that little ego that says, I could do the splits when I was 15. Take it, bam, throw it away. There's no need for that ego here. So if you're slightly warmed up, slightly loosened up, that's great. If you want to go on a walk and come back and do it later, that's fine also. Traditionally, yin is not done warmed up because it's working on the plastic tissues, the tendons, the ligaments, versus stretching the muscles. So you are completely fine as long as you listen to your body and stop if it says to stop. Take a breather if you need a breather. Or keep going with it. So we're gonna start. If you have a block, I recommend grabbing a block or maybe just like a throw pillow, something of that size. We are gonna use blocks here in just a little bit. But for today's practice, let's start in a cobbler's position, also known as butterflies, where our feet are together, sitting up tall in those sit bones, letting our knees come down to the ground. We have options. We can lean into one knee at a time, or maybe we want to grab our toes. Let that belly button come down, hinging at the hips. Now we are holding longer than we do with normal classes. So again, put some music on, or if you're enjoying maybe outside, just that quiet space as you just breathe traditionally in and out through the nose. On those exhales, see if your body will let you sink deeper into the pose. If it says, no, I don't like going deeper, bring it back up. So we're letting gravity do its job. We're letting it gently guide us down. We might even slowly start to walk our fingers out in front if that feels right. Again, breathing in, exhale, releasing tension. Seeing if our bodies take us deeper. Let's give 3 more breaths here. Full breaths. Or when in class, I call them Katie breaths because I breathe so slow. Last one. And then inching ourselves upright. Take that cobbler's or butterfly pose and scoot your heels out about 4 to 6 inches. Also a version of caterpillar. Caterpillar to butterfly, did you catch that? And then take yourself down, same positioning, hinging at the hips. You're gonna get a little bit lower here. We can let our elbows relax down. We might keep our hands on the feet, or we might walk those fingertips forward. So you decide. The stretch is gonna be from the inner thighs now a little bit more to the outer side, maybe in those glutes. Let's give ourselves 3 more breaths here. And then take your time, use your arms, your hands, gently guide yourself up. Once we get upright, let's keep that right leg bent in and extend our left leg out to the side in a half straddle. So same motion, we're gonna hinge at the hips, belly button comes down first, walking those fingertips out, feeling the stretch here. Now, you can decide, are my arms active or do I relax those elbows into the mat, letting those shoulders, letting that head become gentle. as I just give myself a nice little bit of TLC, especially if you've been sitting or standing, a lot of tightness happening. We are reversing all of that. So take your time, enjoy the stretch, and remind yourself in yin. It's the opposite of yang. Yang are the heated yogas where we go. Most of our life we're in yang. We go, go, go. In yin, it's the other end of the spectrum. So we pause, we hold, and we never get in a hurry. And that is so important to have that balance in our life. It's really, really hard mentally to hold poses longer. Inch yourself up. Take your time, and we're gonna switch as we extend that left leg forward, shake out both knees and hips. When you're ready, let's take your right leg out, fold that left foot in, half straddle. We'll walk those fingers forward. Again, active arms or resting arms. And again, you guys know I'm downtown Huntsville, love it. So you'll hear road noise, car doors. There's still a little bit of action in town, so it's just part of the experience while we're here. Let's take it here for 3 more breaths, okay? After that 3rd breath, we're gonna inch ourselves upright. Go ahead, take that right leg. Let's bring it in, shake out knees and hips. While we're sitting with our legs extended, we're gonna give what I call the slouch down. It lets that lower back relax. If this is sitting up tall, I'm just slouching, just taking out the tension, giving that back some break. Now, from all that forward fold, my favorite counter and everybody's least favorite is reverse tabletop. So we're gonna slide our hands back, fingertips facing the front of your mat. Press those feet into the ground. On your inhale, lift those hips up. Work those hands underneath your shoulders. And our head is looking up at the ceiling about halfway. Squeeze those glutes. So we've been leaning forward. Now we're pushing those hips up. Let's extend that right leg out. Cross the ankle over the knee. And we're gonna sit down slowly, slowly until we feel a stretch in the back of that right hip. So I usually have to inch that front leg out a little bit, stretching here. Now I can lean forward, almost like I'm cradling the baby. I can lean forward into that stretch, or I can keep my hands back and push my chest forward. Or you might even feel comfortable to get a tiny little baby sway in it. Again, I like to wrap and just kind of rest forward. So it's a pigeon pose, a version of pigeon pose, stretching those hips. All right, we're gonna bring it up and switch. So keep that right foot over that left knee. Reach your hands back, get that foot firm underneath you. Lift those hips. Make it look fun and easy, like you've been doing it all day. Switch, take your time, lower yourself down. Feel that stretch. Inch that right foot out a little bit if you want to, pushing forward or gently wrapping, leaning forward. Let's give 2 more breaths. Good, let's reach those hands back, chest up. Coming up, release both feet. Let's lift those hips up. Holding that reverse tabletop. Let's give it for 5, 4, 3, 2, and we can lower it down nice and slow. Good job. All right, so from our seated position, we're gonna take it to hands and knees. So, I'm gonna face you. If knees are uncomfortable on your mat, you can grab a small blanket, put some cushion underneath those knees, so feel free to do so. So what we're gonna do from hands and knees, we're gonna go into some different lunges. And this is where your little couch pillow or your block or any kind of prop is gonna come in handy for those of us who want a little bit of stretch but can't go all the way. So let's start with your right foot. Let's bring your right foot forward, and just like we've been doing, lean into that lunge. So I'm gonna turn sideways so everyone can kind of see placement of knee and hip. So right foot is forward, knee is over the ankle, and I'm leaning into it. So I really wanna stretch right in here in that right hip flexor, all the way down the quad. So I'm gonna turn sideways again. So once we get that, let's bring both hands on the inside of that right foot. Leaning in, let's give ourselves a few breaths here, really stretching left hip flexor. That's our goal here. Now, on your next exhale, opening into a dragon lunge, letting your knee separate from the shoulder and rolling to the outside of that right foot. Some people, if you're having ankle problems, foot problems, maybe that's not what you want to do. Maybe you want to keep your foot flat and just have a little separation. Some of us like to go fully into it. It lets you get a little bit deeper. Now here's where our prop can come in handy. Some of you, not me, can comfortably come down to those forearms, getting even deeper into that lunge. If you're like me and you're not quite there, use a prop so that you can get a little bit deeper, but without having to go from straight arms all the way down to forearms on the ground. As we are gonna hold this for several more breaths. Again, knowing we can come out of that dragon lunge at any time, come out of any pose at any time if it just doesn't feel like the right pose for today. Let's give ourselves 3 more breaths here. After that 3rd breath, we're gonna work our bodies upright first, then flatten that foot into the mat. Let's sit back into a half split. So, coming up, sitting back towards that left heel, right toes up, exhale, hinge at the hips. Again, props can come in handy if you're balancing on those fingertips. After a while, your hands actually get sore from balancing on them. So props are a great tool, something that you can actually put some of your upper body weight onto, or you can rest on that shin. Let's hold it for about 3 to 5 more seconds. Perfect. Let's slowly shift forward so we release that tension, and we're gonna move into pigeon pose. So in our pigeon, what we do is we take that right leg, we're still focusing on the right leg, tuck the right knee behind your right wrist. And your right foot might be behind your left wrist, but it's not gonna be all the way up there. It's gonna be at a slight angle in. Very few of us are gonna get parallel to the front of your mat. Once we have that, inch that left leg back, hips stay square, and then we can set ourselves down onto the forearms. Taking several breaths here. You got a prop, you might even rest your forehead on the prop. Noticing that we have a lot of tightness probably in those right glutes, that right hip area. Again, we're not fully warmed up. We haven't warmed up the muscles. We're actually making those connective tissues have to stretch here. So it's a completely different experience than when we do pigeon maybe at the end of a typical yoga session. So paying attention to maybe any feedback from the body, listening if it's saying, you know, something's not right with my knee, something's not right with the hip, then please, by all means, come out of the pose. We're gonna hold it for 5 more breaths. If you're feeling comfortable-ish, then feel free to work yourself deeper, maybe even rest your head on the ground, turning it to whatever side is more comfortable. And let's recenter the head, bring those hands underneath the shoulders, baby steps here. Let's come up on that that back left toe, lift, slide that right leg back, and let's bring it into downward facing dog. Work those heels down to the mat. Look back at your big toes. I know I'm backwards than normal in down dog, but I think you guys have become familiar with it. And then let's bring it back down to all fours. Knees under the hips, hands under the shoulders. Let's switch sides. Left leg is coming forward into that kneeling lunge. getting our prop ready if we know we're gonna use it. Hands on the inside of that left foot. Letting yourself just lunge forward, check in. Make sure that that left knee is over the ankle and that your foot's not back here, or you're gonna have ankle and knee problems. So find that balance. Couple breaths. If you want to open up into that dragon lunge, let the knee separate from the shoulder, maybe rolling on the outside of that left foot. Give yourself a couple breaths and then decide, are you taking it any lower? If you want to take it lower, feel free. Use that pillow, that block, set those forearms, maybe your forearms comfortably reach the ground, and let's hold here for a couple breaths. Let's give 2 more breaths here. Taking our time after that second exhale, we can lift our bodies up nice and slow. Press that left foot into the mat, sitting back into our half split. So get that torso up, tush pushes back. Ooh, and feel that stretch on the back of that left leg. Again, props nice and handy. If you're not feeling the stretch, check that front toe. If that right foot is relaxed or the toe is pointed, you're not going to get much of a stretch. You want to draw those toes up to the sky here. Perfect. Let's shift our weight forward. Release that block, moving into pigeon pose with that right leg. So we're going to inch that leg in. We're gonna tuck our right knee behind that left wrist. Inch that right leg back, keep your hips square to the mat. And then slowly work yourself down, maybe to those forearms first. Again, we have that block or that pillow we might rest our forehead on. After a couple breaths, we might lower ourselves down even further. And you guys just breathe and relax. Release that tension. I'm counting in my head. I'm doing all the counting. You get to just enjoy the stretch. And remember to pat yourself on the back for taking the time to stretch it out. All right, let's give 2 more breaths. And let's slowly come up. So bring those arms underneath the shoulders, hands. Let's lift up on that right toe. Lift, slide that left leg back. Find your down dog. Maybe work those feet one at a time down to the mat. And let's come down to all fours. We can sit back on those heels for just a moment. So good, I hope that the hips and everything opened up pretty good for you. We're gonna do one of my favorite hip openers. It's very gentle. So I'm gonna stay this way, facing you. So we're gonna lay down. First step is to lay on your stomach. And if you need to watch first and then get down, that's fine. So find the length of your mat. Lay yourself down on your stomach. Both arms can be up here. And then we're gonna take our left leg, bring that left knee up. Think of a half frog, okay? So that leg's up and your toes are pointed out, not in. Gentle hip opener, get those hips as square to the ground as you can. Chin can be down or turning towards that bent knee. Half frog. So that's why I say think of frog legs. So what are you supposed to do when you're quiet? When the music's quiet around you, our bodies think they have to go, go, go. I just encourage all my clients to just really touch base with that sacred place when you're in yin. If you have to go back and forth in between, imagine maybe when you're in a position just resting in that sacred place directly on the grass. Engaging the senses. What do you see? What do you smell? What do you hear? In your your sacred place, in your imagination, not in the real world. Let's take our time. We're gonna bring that left leg back. So I like to use that arm as support as I worm that leg back, find the middle. We're gonna turn our head to whatever side we want. Let those hips just melt down into the mat, into the ground. And then let's move that right leg up. So take your time, bend that right knee, lifting it up. That foot's turned out, think of a frog leg. And then turn your head towards that right side. Let's give ourselves 2 more breaths. Exhale. Take your time. Use whatever upper body you need as we inch that right leg back, setting everything centered on our mat. Let's push back into child's pose. Bring those hands underneath the shoulders, lifting up. I like to make space, so I like to widen my knees and feet sitting back, and then reaching those arms out, forehead to the mat. Maybe you want to bring your arms along the outside edges of your feet, palms up. As you exhale, let the tension just roll out of those shoulders. Slowly bring those hands underneath the shoulders as we lift our torsos up, coming to hands and knees, and let's move into a seated position. So I'm going to turn sideways on my mat. So I would encourage you guys, grab a block if you have it. If you don't have a block, just go without, okay? You'll see what we're going to do. A book is going to be too hard, and a blanket might be too soft. So you can kind of play and decide if it's, maybe we can roll up a blanket or figure out some other ways. If anyone has any great ideas, feel free to post it on the comments. So let's get down on our backs. And we're going to move into a bridge position and either use a block or not use a block. So from our backs, we have hips, knees, and feet in alignment. Work those heels in a little bit closer to your tush so that we can lift our hips up. Now, if you don't have a block, you can just hold a low lifted bridge. If you do have a block, take it on its flat side, slide it right underneath that sacral spine. So the sacral spine is right underneath your waist. You're gonna find that sweet spot. You do not want it here in that lower back. So it's right below the lower back. Give yourself, maybe walk those feet out a little bit, decide when I put all of my weight on that block, does it feel like it's in the right place? Do you need to make any small adjustments? And then let yourself rest in the shoulders. If you don't have a block, you can lower your hips down to the mat, keeping your right leg just as it is. Let's all lower that left leg down to the mat and let that foot flop to either side. Okay? Opening up that right hip flexor, or that right hip joint, I should say. Also, if you have the block, it helps put a little extension in that lower back. So it's a back and a hip opener, actually with the joint. So we're gonna stay here for several more breaths. Let that stomach and that chest rise as you breathe in, lower as you exhale. Let's slowly switch, bending that extended leg. If we're on a block, make sure if we slipped and slid anywhere, we readjust and lower the opposite leg. Let it foot flop to whatever side. If you're not using the block, It's the same thing, it's just we're flat on the ground, so you're not gonna get quite as much of a hip opener, but that's okay. We'll do what we need to do, huh, guys? So, better to be err on the side of caution than to do something and grab a device that's too high or grab a book that's too hard. Perfect. Let's slowly bend that knee, get both feet onto the mat. Lift those hips up, slide that block out, and lower yourself down to the mat. Maybe we rock those knees a little bit from side to side. And let's hug both knees into the chest. We might even cross at the ankles or keep those legs straight, whatever feels good. Let's bring feet down to the mat, turning over onto whatever side is more comfortable, knees bent, and then gently pushing yourself into that upright position. Best ergonomic way to go from on our backs to seated. So I hope you guys enjoyed the hip series. So I'll do something new next week. Maybe we'll do some shoulder stretches or add a little bit more to it. So if you're interested in yin yoga, by all means, feel free to message me, send me some questions here. But truly the poses are held for a lot longer than what we did them. But who knows? I don't know who's out there doing it. Guys, if you have time, send me a namaste in the comments when you take my video. Because namaste, it helps me feel connected and I know what you guys are doing. Also, Wednesday will be part 2 of our Fox Yoga for Kids. So if your kids didn't take part 1, have them do part 1. I did it last week, Fox Yoga for Kids, and then we'll add on to that and give them something new to do this week. Okay, thanks guys, thanks for joining me. Appreciate your time. Bye.